When we got to talk about water, we got to talk about the chutes. Currently, we have a section near Willow Dell where the chutes collapsed. Like the mayor said, when we were talking about earlier, it wouldn't take much to envision if we get a large storm again where water gets behind that other piece and could cause problems. The advantage to this section where it did collapse is that it's on the inner wall of where it turns on Willow Dell. So most of the pressure is against those outer walls. But still, it's a concern. We had discussions with the Army Corps of Engineers. The way they look at these systems now is it has to have a one-for-one cost benefit, so that has to be able to protect. If we're ever going to get a major upgrade of our system, it would have to protect one-for-one. This system comes nowhere close. It won't meet any of the environmental regulations of today. There's really a number of reasons of why they may not be able to support us in how these chutes, what they become as we go along in time. And people have to remember that these chutes, no one knows how long they're going to last. They're nothing made by man lasts forever, and especially when you're dealing with water. That water puts constant pressure on the systems. So where we're going to go from here with the chutes is a question I don't think any of us have answered. And I think if they were to build it to today's standards, we're looking at possibly up to I thought they said $200 million project. So it would be an exorbitant amount of money.
And it wouldn't be built like this anymore. They
Right.
wouldn't build it like this.
Well,
right?
I think that was to build it environmentally and everything
yeah,
else,
right.
but they said that you would have to show that in one storm event, there'd be $200 million in damage for them to cover the cost of it. So it would probably never get built if it was today.
Just clarification, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that misunderstand this as much as I do, is that the Corps of Engineers built the project originally.
Right.
But they're not required, the city is required to pay for maintenance?
Yes.
Is that how it
Right.
goes? But you
Yep.
need to get their permission to do anything?
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
Exactly. So, and you can see on this particular event, you can see the dirt. You can see in back of the next piece of wall, so that already is eroding pretty badly back there. So,
Yeah.
Mike, when you said one for one, can you explain what that means in this context? I didn't quite get that.
In order for them to build or even rebuild this project, you would have to have a one-for-one savings, which means if they were to come in and rebuild it and say that $200 million was what it would cost to redo the entire thing, they would have to show that in a single event that it would protect $200 million worth of property. Basically they said that it would not get built today under today's standards. So that brings up the question of what would happen if we begin to see failure along it. Would they be able to, based on their cost-benefit analysis, be able to come in and make repairs to the system? It's very questionable whether it would meet that criteria for us going forward. And the walls just are getting older and older. So, how we're and where we're going to go from here is something we need to be aware of, but we have no answers at this time for it.
Play devil's advocate for one moment. If there's a catastrophic event and multiple panels come down, I mean, is there what happens then where it's an emergency situation, the city doesn't have the money?
we'd be looking to the agencies.
Right.
We'd be going to the federal
if they
government, and state
rebuilt-
government,
somebody-
FEMA's.
Somebody
Those-
rebuilt Route 2. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
Charlemont didn't have that kind of money to put
Right.
up what the
Yep.
walls they did.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, we'd be
So
looking.
we'd
at-
have to wait for the whole thing to collapse
Well,
in order to get
that's-
some
And
help.
then see if we meet the criteria that the
Yeah.
federal government's established, and whether they're still building New Orleans, rebuilding parts of that, where we'd be in the Army Corps long range, and whether or not it would be something that can or would be done would depend. And a lot of times they only can do so many projects, the Army Corps, and we're a little city tucked away up here, and whether or not we can make enough noise, what would be the damage if it's just the chutes falling? There's no property damage. They might say there's no cost benefit here in order to fix it.
Because what they'll say is they'll lay it off to FEMA and say if all of a sudden, because those 3 sections of wall blew out, a whole bunch of land fell out behind it and brought a house down with it, Well, FEMA will come in.
FEMA will
help us.
pay for reimburse the homeowner,
Right, well, that's
but
what I'm
won't
saying.
fix the wall.
But-
FEMA doesn't
But
do.
that's what I'm saying. That's what it's like somebody will come in and clean up the mess. Well, this is the mess that we're faced with. One of the messes, I should say. Yeah.
Didn't we get help from Congressman Over with the one that happened on River Street? How did
Yeah,
that
and if
one
you
get-
remember, how many years did it take for?
It did, but I mean.
7
but-
or 8 years,
right.
yeah.
And it's the same scenario. Can at some point we get them, they might say, we have leftover money from this project or that project, we're going to fix this here. They might. But then, again, it might be another, I think that took like 8 years or something like that.
For instance, that's what happened. How we got the Saco Bridge and the deck redone down by West's package store. The
Has
state
any-
just had extra money from projects for that
Has
year.
anything been started in a process to
Discussions.
just?
Yeah, just discussions.
Yeah, that's as far as you get in
anything.
6 months. Yeah.
I would like to say somewhat, I guess, positive of all of this is that Ben and I were able to meet with Judy Grinnell with
Right.
Hoosick River Revival, and I know, some of their plans are, again, I don't want to say pipe dream because that seems like unrealistic, but there are people that are, also tackling this along with the city, which I think is a really
Right.
is a good help. You got someone else on your side, and I know they were meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers.
Yes, we were part of that phone conversation.
So,
I
last
mean,
week and a half
at
ago.
least,
Right.
it seems like doom and gloom, everything we're talking about, but
Yeah.
there are steps being taken by, by yourself as a city, but also by others looking to do what
And
they
there's,
can.
there's a lot of people that like to say, oh, just leave the chutes as they are. We need people to understand that eventually, may not be for
Well, they have a
10,
shelf
20, 30,
Yeah.
at some, we don't know, but at some point, right, the useful life of the chutes will expire, and then where do we go from there?
So two things that were so important, and I'm sorry, Counselor. Two things that were so important on that last phone call we had with the Army Corps. Mike and I were here, but they were in New York City we were on the phone with them, and was this one-to-one comparison, which was something that we learned through that phone call. And the other thing was that they were very, very impressed with the progress that Judy has made, that the River Revival people have made, and they basically stated that if they do projects now, this is the type of this is the way they do it. The way we're presenting it, quite honestly, the way Judy's presenting it and the group is presenting it, is the way it's done now. You'd never see something like this built again. The way they do it is the way it's being proposed. So, thanks for bringing that up, Counselor.
Oh, I was going to kind of say what you just said, Mr. Mayor. But also, in talking about all the concerns and issues with these, is the fact that it flows almost essentially right into New York. So it's not like we can just base it on even our state laws or anything. We have to keep that in mind too, which is also an ongoing challenge.
Because of what this feeds, we're actually under the New York,
Right.
New York Army Corps of Engineers division.
Are there other portions? I mean, again, you look at this one, you say, okay, we get another Irene, and could that push enough water behind that other wall to create like a dominoes? Are there other
Down a little
portions
ways
of-
from Willow Dell, there's another section that's pushing out, which is a picture right here, where the top is, we've now seen it start to separate. So, that's showing that the pressure against the back of the wall is slowly pushing it inward. And, once again, time will bring all these at some point down.